no Wi-Fi, which means there's no NAS, which means there's no playback while I'm editing.
I see that the footage that I definitely had on this hard drive, shows drive, is not found again. Fellow editor in a nominally disparate location, might I inquire as to acquire said missing digital MacGuffin from your repository via external hard drive? Shows drive, that I might progress the plot.
Yes.
Then allow me to share said external drive with you, shows drive, that you may impart your asset upon it.
Yes.
That is the Lockerstor 10, whatever, Gen 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in RAID 6. We have 2 drives redundancy, and I have a hot spare over here. These are they 20 gigabit, terabyte? Yeah, they're 20 terabyte drives. 3 drives worth of storage, 2 drives worth of redundancy, and I essentially have a second level of redundancy by having a 6th drive as a hot spare over here. What is it? A cold drive? It can auto rebuild the array. As I need more storage, I can add 5 more drives to the RAID 6 array. Oh, it's purring. Let's talk about something that's a little different with this NAS. The first one being, I haven't pulled the sticker off yet. Look at that. Good as new. I think we need a light here. I could use this light. Bruh, who put this? I think I'm out of battery. Is this enough light? This NAS is not connected via LAN. So this will connect the NAS to the router. Don't need to do it. So I have directly connected the NAS through each of its 2 10 gigabit ports to this PC. The second 10G port is connected all the way over to the second workstation with a Cat 6A cable. There's no switch needed, just 2 cables here. I'm using it as a DAS for 2 computers rather than a NAS. But it has to be a NAS in order to connect to multiple computers simultaneously because it needs the software to be able to handle that. Spooky. It's like spinning up a platter drive in your desktop, but it has to spin up a lot of them. And so it does seem to take longer. Once it gets going, the speed seems plenty fast. I can edit off of it. I heard a lot of warning that there's a big write penalty. I mean, it seems to write just as fast as like a normal spinning drive. I do seem to get very good read speed. I don't really notice much difference running off of one NVMe on the NAS over the 10 gigabit network versus directly connected to the motherboard. Where it becomes an issue is I'm pulling from footage from that drive, he's pulling footage from that drive.
Yes.
And you're pulling footage from that drive all at the same time. So the question is it a bandwidth issue or is it the random access of the NVMe itself? So the RAID 6 on this is my lukewarm storage, my library of footage that and projects I might need to refer to. It also has the NVMe's that I use as a project disk, as a standalone drive, or in the future, RAID 0. Put another NVMe drive that's identical to the first, put it in RAID 0. We shouldn't get any more raw read or write speed because we're bandwidth limited by the 10G to begin with, but what it should give us is a lot more random access speed. And if that's the issue, then we should be able to edit at 2 different workstations on 2 different projects better. But I haven't done it yet, which means it's a perfect plan. There was something the Syncovery. As you all know, RAID is not a backup. There we go. My name is. I have 2 forms of redundancy. The RAID 6 and... Excuse me, sir. I have 2 levels of redundancy. I have the RAID 6 and the spare drive, but that's redundancy. That's not backup. How do we back up? Glad you asked. I use this program, Syncovery. I have these auto backups set up that it backs up to. This PC is filled with platters. This NAS is filled with platters. So the folders correspond to drives that they back up to. Why did I do it this way? It just, look at it, it's cute. I don't know, I couldn't figure it out. So rather than schedule the backups on the NAS software, I scheduled the backups on Windows software. What's that? And then I'll have parity on my folders and my backup drives. I think. I've never really had to use them, so it could all be a lie, but I feel confident.
You're not supposed to mention you don't know what you're talking about. This is YouTube. Obviously, you're an expert if you're talking on YouTube.
Well, yeah, just say... This is so much better than when we were shuttling drives back and forth. I know a lot of you guys are shuttling drives back and forth. I was very intimidated of going with a NAS. It was a big change. It was a big investment, but it did short-term force me to learn new skills. I'm happy I learned them, and I'm happy with how much less friction there is in the editing process across workstations and across editors. All my issues is just, I wish it could do what it's doing even better.
Faster?
Yeah, more faster. Like if there were just no, like basically I was like, I wish it could just break physics and like the platters would just instantly spin up or something.
We might could get that with quantum mechanics. Having used a NAS that ran off of Wi-Fi that was also satellite Wi-Fi, it was incredibly painful to the point where like I physically...
Oh, so it wasn't a 1 gigabit Ethernet connection. It was like...
No, I was actually connected through the Wi-Fi. So the days where the Wi-Fi tanked, which happened, clouds come over because it's satellite, there's no Wi-Fi, which means there's no NAS, which means there's no playback while I'm editing.
In that situation, you would say shuttling drives around would have been better, as confusing as that might be.
Yes, which is what we did often. I mean, the proximity of the workstations, it was like computer, so it wasn't that far. Yeah. But yeah, it was like, oh, hey, I need that piece of footage for this thing, but you're working on your project over here. Now I have to sit here and wait for 30 minutes until it's done. Which at that point, it was so painful that we essentially just took a cloud pod, then we actually wired it up. And it was like really nice because it actually worked more like what we have set up here. Because then we had the cloud pod backing up to the NAS, and that was fine because that could take as long as it wanted to, and that wasn't going to affect our editing.
Yeah, how does this compare to like shuttling? Because we did a little shuttling here. Because the workstations are right next to each other.
Yeah. So it's not that far. I mean, it's like.
Do you have a timer?
I have my phone.
Okay.
Go.
What was that?
4 seconds.
It was 4 seconds away. Okay.
So that's good speed, but well, then you also have to factor in plug-in time, which is probably another second, and then eject time, which is probably another second or two. So you're 6 seconds. Well, we also gained simultaneous editing, whereas you can have a project open here, I can have a project open there.
Yeah, and that was a big thing. It wasn't the, oh, I gotta connect a drive and walk over there. It was the like, oh, I need access to those files.
Yeah.
And I can't, and you also need access to
at the same time.
And the fact that the cold storage isn't cold, old YouTube videos or whatnot, well, now only one computer had access to that, and now we can just both. And I don't think I really mentioned this before. The 10G made a difference. I don't know what 5G would be like because I just had the 2.5G on this, but going from the 2.5G on this computer to the 10 gigabit, it definitely made it more responsive. So
editing is now easy.